The gold rush brought 100,000 people into Colorado in the first few years, and after the gold rush there was a rush to culture. A big part of that was to bring theater.
John Elitch designed the theater based on some idea he had as to what the old Globe Theater in London looked like. He also got it very wrong.
At the turn of the century, you didn't have movie houses yet, you didn't have television, and what did you do for amusement? And a great escape from the city was to take that 38th Avenue a streetcar line, hop on downtown, and go out to Elitch's Gardens, out 38th and Tennyson, walk through the big arch with the flowers and the big sign, Elitch's Gardens, and not to see Elitch's is not to see Denver.
Elitch's was one of the main attractions in Denver. In fact, I mean, it was probably the biggest. There was very few restaurants, a few nightclubs, but there wasn't that much.
Elitch's was, for 100 years, really the cultural center of the city.
And of course it puts Denver on the map for bringing nationally known stars to Denver.
It was their intention from the start to bring in the best talent there was to bring.
1926 through 1928, Frederick March was our leading man.
One of the first folks that they had brought in for a series of shows was Sarah Bernhardt, who in her time was the biggest star in the world.
Douglas Fairbanks Sr. was our leading man.
Cecil B. DeMille and his brother performed here.
Raymond Burr.
Edward G. Robinson.
Sid Caesar.
Grace Kelly, Lana Turner, Gloria Swanson, Mickey Rooney, Shelley Winters.
Patty Duke was with us.
I mean, the list just goes on and on and on.
Elitch Theater is the oldest standing summer stock theater in the country.
For 100 years, for dozens of nights every year, magic happened here.
For a long time it looked like this boarded up and abandoned theater was going to burn down or go away some way or another. So it's a wonderful resurrection for a priceless bit of Denver's history.
And Elitch's has so much history behind it. It was really the start of Denver.
Truly, this is one of the most important historic buildings in Denver.
Something miraculously has kept that theater up. There's been fires there, there's been arson, there's been suggestions some people like to burn it down to collect insurance. I mean, there's 1,001 reasons why that theater should no longer be there. So I think you have to give Mary Elitch's ghost the credit for keeping it up.
I've had a number of people tell me that they've seen Mary in here.
All of a sudden, I ran into something, and it just lasted a couple of minutes, and then it was gone.
There's kind of a legendary story when Shelley Winters was here. She was in a rehearsal process and at one point stopped and said, "Who's that bitch with the boa up in the balcony?"
I have heard the ghost story. I don't believe in ghosts, and I gotta tell you, I've crawled around in some creepy places in that theater, and I've never had the sense that any presence was behind me.
EMF readings have been taken. It looks like there may be some things going on with that. We're going to have to look throughout the evening and see what we actually have.
Yeah, what we're doing here is sweeping Mary Elitch's box for unusual EMF readings. EMF being the natural electromagnetic field.
What's truly interesting to us is when we find EMF sources in places where they shouldn't be. There's no obvious power source. That's something we're very excited about when we find it. And we did see some of that in Elitch's theater that night.
Well, after spending the night there, there's definitely some odd things going on there.
Ferris wheel, which is still at the top. See what happens in an old theater that's this old? It's wind, or Mary.
Truly, this place, in my world, is a cathedral. I mean, it has that level of importance. We're trying to build off 100 years of legacy the next 100 years.
This theater is a living thing to me. It truly is.
Who am I to argue with Cecil B. DeMille? You know, who am I to argue with the National Park Service, who's given us a Save America's Treasures grant? Because this project is vitally important, not just to the people that live here, but to people in Washington, D.C., to people all over the country who recognize the value of keeping a place that has the kind of ghosts in here that we have.